Hi there, Rayanne with Trailblazer RV here. Today I'm going to take you through a new RV orientation on a Connect 261 RV. We're going to start here at the front of the trailer. This unit comes equipped with two 20-pound propane tanks. And we have already filled these tanks, so they are ready to go. I'll have you notice on your auto changeover regulator, currently the sight glass is red. If I open the tank that is selected by the regulator, you're gonna see it turns to clear. That's indicating that there is propane flowing from this bottle to the rest of the system. And when using it, we recommend you open both bottles at the same time. That way, when the supply tank is depleted, the regulator will automatically start drying off of the reserve tank. Once this tank is emptied, the sight glass on this regulator is going to turn back to red. At that point, you can switch the regulator over to select this bottle and remove this bottle to take it to get refilled without ever having to shut off the propane to the system. Behind that, you are going to find your battery. This unit has a standard 12 volt flooded lead acid battery. Positive post is connected to the red wire, and the negative post is the black wire. Important to note on this battery, it is a flooded lead acid battery, so there is some maintenance that needs to be done. Under these two caps, you're going to find 3 cells under each of them. Recommend that at least a couple times a year you check the water levels in these cells and top up with distilled water as needed. As these batteries charge, some of that water is going to dissipate, and in order to keep your battery in proper working order, they do need to be topped up a couple times a year. This unit also has a power front jack, just a nice little switch on there with a light to kind of help you hook up if it's dark. You just can't see it because it's so sunny right now. And then just extend and retract button there. If you ever do lose power, don't have enough power to run the jack anymore when you go to hook up to go home, there is a manual crank for this jack. It is stored in this front compartment here. To operate it, you just remove this cap on the top, put your crank in there, there's a little nut it'll fit over, and you can crank the jack up or down from there. Just make sure to always replace this cap, as there is a seal in there that's going to prevent water from getting into the jack and ruining the mechanisms inside there. Also in this front compartment, you are going to find your 30 amp power cord. This unit comes with a 25-foot 30 amp power cord. You plug this into the side of the unit towards the back there. You're going to push it in and twist to lock. And then this nice locking ring is going to help keep that in place as well. Cord is a 30 amp unit, so it's got a 30 amp end on it if you have 30 amp supply at the campground. If you don't, we also supply a park adapter to be able to adapt the power down to 15 amp or your standard household style plug. The last thing you'll find in this compartment is the crank for your stabilizer jacks. To run that, you simply put it on the end of the nut here on the jack and crank up or down as required. Important to note that these jacks are for stabilizing only. They are not for lifting or leveling the unit. If you do need to level the unit, do so with blocks underneath the tires on one side to level side to side, rather than with the stabilizer jacks. They're not rated to take the weight of the trailer. Once you've run the jack down, just give it another quarter turn or so just to tighten it up to keep the unit stable while you're using it. Here is where you are going to have your water connections. So first one is your freshwater connection. This is where you're going to fill the fresh tank if you're running off the onboard supply. You just fill by sticking your hose into the little port here. We do recommend using a freshwater drinking hose rather than the standard garden hose, just to help eliminate getting that rubbery hose taste in the water. You can also get fill nozzles to make filling this a little bit easier. Oftentimes the end of your hose is going to be about the same size as that support, and sometimes it's hard to keep it in there without having to stand there and hold it the whole time. Below that is your city water connection. Simple use on this, again with your drinking water safe hose, hook up onto the city water connection. When you are hooked up to city water, we always recommend you use a water pressure regulator. The water system in the RV is only rated for about 50 psi, and oftentimes campgrounds and other places like that will have either higher pressure than that or a fluctuating pressure. That water pressure regulator is just going to keep that water pressure at a nice, safe, even flow rate. Below that, you're going to see right here is your freshwater tank drain. The fresh tank is currently empty, so the valve is in the open position. When you want to fill the fresh tank, just close that valve and do so through the fresh tank fill I just showed you. Right behind that, you are going to find the gate valve for your galley tank. This unit does have two different gray tanks, one for the kitchen sink and one for the bathroom area. So just make sure you remember to dump both tanks when you're dumping your holding tanks. This one will be for the kitchen sink. You're going to twist your hose on here, dump the gate valve by pulling this handle. Back here, you're going to find your other two gate valves. Your other gray valve here with the gray handle, and this larger valve here with the black handle is for your black tank. So when dumping this connection, always make sure to dump the black tank first. Allow the entire contents of that tank to drain out. Once that's done, go ahead and close this valve and then open this one. What that's going to do is help flush out any extra debris that may still be in this pipe or in your dump hose. Just helps make cleanup a little bit easier. The other thing this unit comes equipped with is the black tank flush. When you're dumping, we recommend using this every time you dump. What this is going to do is clean out the inside of the holding tank when you dump. So when you have the hose hooked up and that valve is open, you can hook your water hose up to this, and what it's going to do is spray the inside of the tank with fresh water just to help clear out anything that may be left in the tank, and will keep your sensors inside reading properly. We recommend you do use a different hose than your drinking water hose for that one, just for sanitary reasons, obviously. This unit is equipped with a spare tire. However, RVs never come with a jack or tire wrench. Oftentimes the jack for the tow vehicle will be more than enough to lift the trailer. However, the tire wrench may not be the same size. So we do recommend either checking to make sure they're compatible or picking up a star wrench, just so you do have that in case you need it. Down here at the running gear, tires are inflated to 65 psi, and your wheel nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds. Before a long trip or after you bring the unit out of storage for a while, we just recommend you double check the tire pressure and torque on the lug nuts, just to make sure everything is prepared for your next trip. This is your water heater. This unit has a gas electric water heater, so it will run off of propane or electricity if electricity is available. But in order to run an electricity, there's a switch down in the bottom left-hand corner here. You need to make sure it is in the on position. If that's not in the on position, there won't be any flow of power to the electric elements. But we do recommend, unless you are using it in electric mode, you leave that switch in the off position, just to eliminate any risk of accidentally firing the water heater up without having any water in the tank, as that can cause damage to either the elements or cause the high limits to trip. If you do accidentally fire it up without water in it, these are the high limits I'm talking about. The one on the left is for electric, the one on the right is propane. If they are tripped, you just push in the button. You'll feel a little knob in there. It'll click into place, and you should be good to go again for the next use. Also on the water heater, I'd like to point out the anode rod. It's the plug on the bottom. You would use this to number one, drain the tank. When you want to leave the tank empty, you pull that anode rod out. When you do, you're going to notice a rod approximately this long. Over time, it's going to start to look very pitted and corroded. Nothing to worry about there. It is doing its job. The purpose of the anode rod is to allow the minerals and that sort of thing in the water erode that rod rather than the lining of the tank. So having a proper anode rod in there is going to prolong the life of your tank. It is going to start looking very pitted. Not super important to replace it until any part of that rod gets down to the inner steel core. It's going to be about the thickness of the insert in a pan. So over here, I like to point out the furnace vent. Because it is on the camping side, I just like to note that it can get very hot. So if you are using the area under the awning or have young children playing in this area, just make sure they are very aware that this can get hot and they need to proceed with caution. This unit comes with a power awning. This one also includes the Solera Smart Arm. So you can control the awning from either inside or outside. To turn it on, you just need to push and hold the lock button. It is actually currently on now. So now it is unlocked, so I can control it. You can control either the lights on it or the in and out functions by pushing these buttons. This unit also does come equipped with the motion sensor to turn on the lights. When you have this motion sensor in their working position, it will turn the awning lights on if it senses motion here. Last thing on the outside I wanted to show you is in this front compartment here. This unit does come equipped with a battery disconnect switch. When this switch is pointed to the green position here, that's in the use position, meaning 12 volt power from the battery at the front will be flowing to the rest of the trailer. If you're ever putting the unit into storage for a while, you don't want the battery draining, just switch it into the off position. That's going to cut power from the battery to the rest of the trailer, so your battery won't go dead while it's sitting in storage. Now we can take a look inside the Connect. So in the bathroom, first thing I'm going to point out here is your monitor panel. This is where you can find your battery level, which is reading good. You likely won't ever have it read charged or charging unless the unit is plugged in. Fresh tank is currently reading empty, black reading empty, and gray tanks are reading empty. The water pump switch is right here. It's a lighted switch, so it's easy to tell when the water pump is on. And then the next two switches are for your water heater. First one is your propane DSI light. When you turn it on, you're going to notice this DSI fault light has come on. What that's doing is it's indicating to you that the water heater is not lit. It's going to need to allow the propane to get to the system. Then it's going to spark, and as you'll notice, the light went out and the water heater is now lit. I can hear it running. So it is good to go on propane. The only time that light will be on is if the water heater is in propane mode and something has gone wrong, so it's not lit. This is the switch you'll use to run the water heater on electric. Just important to note that for this switch to work, the switch on the outside, the on-off switch on the outside of the water heater, also needs to be in the on position. The other thing in the bathroom I like to point out is the GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter outlet. Very similar to the outlets you have in your bathroom in your house. However, in an RV, the majority of the outlets will be connected to the same circuit as this. So if your unit is plugged in and you find you don't have power to your outlets, just come here and check the outlet to make sure it's not tripped. If it is, you can just push in the reset button until you hear a click, and after that you will have power flowing through the outlets again. Here at the toilet, I just want to point out that you always need to use RV safe toilet paper and also some sort of a holding tank chemical. The chemical does come in liquid, powder, or tablet form. Whichever you choose to use is fine as long as you are using something. We always recommend to use it after you have dumped the holding tank. Once you've dumped the holding tank, come into the bathroom, put in a new charge of the chemical in the toilet. If you depress the foot pedal halfway, it's going to fill the bowl with water. Once the bowl has filled, you can step down, flush it down all the way, and that's going to recharge the holding tank for the next use. You do need to put a little bit of fresh water in there just to activate those chemicals. Okay, next we have the fridge. Also runs off of propane or electricity, but we recommend leaving the fridge in auto. What that's going to do is when there is electricity available, the fridge will automatically run off of auto. If for whatever run off of electricity, if for whatever reason you lose power, it's going to automatically switch over and run off of propane so that you don't end up spoiling any of your food. You can choose to run off gas bypassing the electric mode. The only time you would ever want to do that is maybe if you're hooked to a weak breaker. The elements in the fridge do draw quite substantial amount of power, so if the breaker's weak, that is a good way to shed some of that power usage. Also, there is temperature adjustments, 1 to 5 on here. We usually leave it in the 3, but you may need to adjust that periodically depending on elevation, ambient temperature, that sort of thing. But it is important to note that an RV refrigerator will always take a long time to cool down. We recommend turning it on at least the night before you're going to load it full of food, and always load it full of cold food. Okay, the stove has a piezo ignition, so simple operation there. To ignite the burners, you just turn it to the light position and turn the sparker. Sometimes you will have to bleed a little bit of propane off the system, especially if you've just replaced a bottle, as there can get air pockets in the system. The stove is the easiest place to do that from, as it is the highest user of the propane. Okay, this unit also has an oven. Now this oven will have the only pilot light in your RV. In order to light the oven, you need to push and hold the button in at the pilot on position. While holding that button in, take your barbecue lighter and heat up this thermocouple you'll find just at the back of the oven there. Probably need to hold it there 15-20 seconds just until that heats up. Once you see the flame there, you can turn your oven up to whichever temperature you want to leave it at to allow it to heat up. Once you're done using it, you can turn it back to either pilot mode, leaving the pilot light on, or you can switch it off and just relight the pilot the next time you go to use it. Down here, you're also going to find your converter. This is going to be the main power center for the RV. It's going to have your 12 volt fuses as well as your 110 volt breakers. In an RV, it's not uncommon to blow a fuse, so we do recommend carrying a few spares with you. Your RV has both 15 and 40 amp fuses, so again, not a bad idea to pick up a few extras of those just to have around in case one of these fuses does blow. Also like to point out that every once in a while you're going to hear a humming or whirring sound coming from the converter. There is a cooling fan in there similar to what you would find in your computer. It's just in there to help keep the electrical circuits cool, and when there is a higher draw on the system or the battery is charging at a high rate, something like that, that fan will come on to keep it cool. Nothing to worry about there, it's just doing its job. Okay, this is the thermostat where you're going to control both your furnace and your air conditioner. To run the furnace, you just switch over to heat and turn it up to whichever temperature you want the RV set at. You're going to hear the furnace fan kick in, and it's going to run for about 20 to 30 seconds before the furnace tries to ignite. It's just running through a purge cycle to get everything ready for the ignition sequence. Then you're going to hear the ticking and the whoosh of the burner lighting. So the furnace is now lit. When you turn the furnace off, the burner is going to go out immediately. However, that fan is going to continue to run for another 45 seconds to a minute, again just to go through one more purge cycle to make sure all the propane has been cleared from the burner, that sort of thing. But it is effectively off, just the fan is running. To run the air conditioner, it's not going to work now because we're not plugged in, but you just switch to cool. Again, select your temperature on that. It is thermostatically controlled, obviously, so it will shut down whenever you reach the desired temperature. The other thing you can run is just the fan. We recommend leaving it in auto rather than the on position for the fan. Otherwise, that fan is going to run continually even when your furnace is lit, which is kind of counterproductive. Down here is your carbon monoxide propane monitor. This monitor will go off in 3 different cases. First one, if there is a propane leak, which you will likely smell. Second, if there is a carbon monoxide situation. And the third and most common time this detector is going to go off is if the battery on the RV gets low. There's a very distinct difference between the alarm sounds. The propane or carbon monoxide alarm is going to be a very urgent, frantic beep. If it is indicating a low battery, it's going to be more of a periodic beep with 10 to 15 seconds between each beep. Unfortunately, this is hardwired into the trailer, so if that happens, the only way to shut it off is to charge the battery. And that pretty much concludes it for the Connect 261. Thank you for watching, and if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us here at Trailblazer RV, or check us out online at www.trailblazerrv.com. Thank you.